City Council on this May the 4th, 2021, and all council members are present and accounted for. And I'm Mayor Guy Fugel, and I'll be conducting this meeting this evening. And we welcome all who have joined us, our general public and our directors and other staff. Thank you for being here this night. We, in fact, I will ask Council Member Bullock to give us a pledge, after which Councilmember Jensen, would you give us the opening remarks? So we'll go to that point.
Repeat after. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear and kind Heavenly Father, as we bow our heads before Thee at the beginning of this City Council meeting, we're grateful for the opportunity we have to be part of this great nation and this wonderful state in this city. We're mindful of the opportunities we have to serve and to reach out to our citizens and to be a betterment for the city. We ask that as this night goes forward, that we know to have civil discourse amongst ourselves to meet the needs of our city. We know to go forward. We're grateful for the many opportunities we have to reach out and to serve our citizens. We ask a blessing be upon those in our community, and especially our fire and our police, that would be with them and watch over them. And we say these things humbly in Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Brent and Eric. Appreciate that. We now need an approval for tonight's meeting agenda, and I will note that in our public hearings, public hearing 9B and D are to be continued indefinitely. I think it's noted on there. Scott, is there any other changes that we have this evening?
No.
So with that, I ask for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make the motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda with a continuance of 9B and D as mentioned.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Williams. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bullock. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move now into our open session and invite anyone who would like to come forward, and especially those directors who didn't speak to us previously, if they'd like to come forward and have 3 minutes with the council at this time. If not, we see no one coming forward. We'll now close our open session and bring it back up and move to item number 6, our consent items this evening, which include City Council 6A, City Council minutes and City Council minutes for April 13th, 2021 meeting, and City Council meeting for the April 27th, 2021 special meeting. And B, to consider for approval payment number 6 to J. Lynn Roberts and Sons for the Veterans Memorial Pickleball Court Park project. And C, to consider for approval payment number 1 to J. Lynn Roberts and Sons for Discovery Park Tennis Court Rehab Project. And D, to consider approval of payment number 2 to Newman Construction for the Pleasant Grove 2020 Sewer Improvement Project. And E, to consider for approval of payment of approval reports for April 21st, 2021. And ask for a motion if there's not any other questions on these.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve tonight's consent items as mentioned by you.
We have a motion by Councilmember Jensen. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Councilmember Williams. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now, we have no board, commissioner, committee appointments this evening or presentations. We'll move right into our list of public hearings this evening, and we'll start out with 9A, a public hearing to allow for public input regarding A, the issuance and sale of not more than $7 million aggregate principal amount of excise tax revenue bonds, Series 2021, and B, at a potential economic impact that the project described hereon to be financed with the proceeds of the bonds issued under the Act may have an private sector, have on the private sector and all related matters.
3 weeks ago, the council adopted a resolution to put notice of intent for the city to bond in order to get some money to do road maintenance. What we're required to do is have a public hearing on that. What the resolution states is that we would be authorized to borrow up to $7 million for this, for road maintenance, road repairs is the intent. The funding, the revenue stream in order to pay the debt service payment will be through our Class C monies, which we talked about when we did our retreat, that there's still plenty of money left over to do ongoing projects, but this would give us an opportunity to really do, knock out some streets that otherwise we might have to wait 10 or 15 years to get to. So this is going to be a nice improvement for our public, for some of our streets to get done sooner rather than later. So, but this is the public hearing that we need to have in order to do this.
Okay. So with that, thank you, Scott. We'll now open our public hearing and invite anyone to come forward and address the council. I see no one approaching, and so we will now close our public hearing and bring it back up here to the council. And it looks like there's no other further motions we need to make on this. Is that correct? Because we've already made it, so. So, anyway, unless the council has anything to add. If not, we will move past 9B and go to 9C, since B has been continued. And C is a public hearing to consider for adoption ordinance 2021-9 to amend City Code Section 1011D-2, permitted, conditional, and accessory uses by adding the use number 6815, day nursery or child care center, to the list of permitted uses in the CS-2 commercial sales-2 zone. And Director Cardenas.
Mayor, Council, just can I have 1 minute so I can't get the images on the screen? You know, I can see that I go older because every city council is harder for me to see that number. Okay, got it.
You want me to read it to you?
You know, I'm gonna go get a refund from that eye surgery that I got. Didn't work very well. Okay, here we go. And the most important thing that I want to show you, it's a zoning map of our city. Just to locate ourselves a little bit better, this is State Street, okay? This is our downtown zone. We have the Grove right here. And we have a commercial series of zones along this State Street. As we can see, most of them are, we have CG, Commercial General, CS2, this purple right here, Commercial Sales. But every zone has a specific type of uses. Some of those zones are more intense than the other ones. But we had an applicant that decided to do a daycare, childcare center. And she wanted to go in the CS2 zone, in a building around this area. This is where Smith's is. And we realized that the use that we're discussing was not a permitted use in the zone. It wasn't even listed as a permitted use in the zone. So, and the use, as the mayor already mentioned it, is 6815. Staff did not see any problem with adding this use. It's actually a commercial zone. It's meant to be for that. And in the future, staff will actually, this is an application from Dana, but in the future, staff will add this use to all the commercial zones. I think it's a use that belongs to a commercial zone. It's a pretty simple request, again, is to add this commercial use into a commercial zone. That's what I have.
Any questions for Daniel? Okay, well, thank you.
My pleasure.
And with that, we will now open our public hearing. for ordinance 2021-8 and invite anybody to come forward and address the council at this time. I see no one coming forward, so we'll now close our public hearing and bring it back up to the council for any further discussion or a motion.
I do have one question.
Okay?
On 16th, is it 8th or 16th, North in Orem, there is a child care, but it's also a school, a preschool. Is preschool included in this if she wanted to run a school? Okay.
Okay. Any other question? A motion, please.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 2021-9 to amend City Code Section 10-11D-2, permitted conditional and accessory uses by adding use number 6815, day nursery or child care center, to a list of permitted uses in the CS2 commercial zone.
We have a motion by Councilmember Williams. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Anderson. And this will be a roll call vote, and we'll start out with Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock. Yes. Councilmember Jensen.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. We'll now move on to our next item on our public hearings this evening, after skipping D, which has been continued, and it will be E,
Epic win.
public hearing to consider for adoption ordinance 2021-11 to amend City Code Section 10-9A-2, permitted and conditional and accessory uses to remove listed uses number 5440, candy, nut, and confectionery, and use number 6299, other personal services, and NEC includes wedding, chapels, reception centers, babysitting, bureaus, and reducing salons. Somebody will have to help me out what a reducing salon is. But anyway, maybe that's what I need. But anyway, use number 7500, resorts and group camps, and use number 7400, recreation activities, and use number 1516, bed and breakfast inns, and a list of conditional uses in the RR, rural residential zone. Director Cardenas. We're glad we're cleaning this up.
Mayor, council, when we see, again, a zoning map of Pleasant Grove City, once we go north of 1100 North, we start seeing these beautiful green parcels that they're the rural residential zone, or what we call the RR. The RR requires lots to be at least half-acre lots. And as every other zone in the city, we have permitted uses, conditional uses, right? It's been the intent of the city, and not just Pleasant Grove, but every city in the state of Utah, to eventually eliminate all the conditional uses, make them permitted with certain qualifying provisions. When a conditional use is listed, it comes to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission makes an administrative decision, making sure that they can impose some conditions pertinent to the use. And sometimes it's kind of difficult for them to make sure they stay on the administrative part without going to the legislative part, okay? Well, having said that, in this zone, we have some conditional uses that are more toward the commercial type of the commercial nature of a use. Just to give you an idea or an example, one of the uses that the mayor just listed, reception centers. So we have it in our code that we can have, or we allow as a conditional use, a reception center. But we don't have anything in there that says how big, how many cars, how many people, We don't have anything on it. And to be honest, once we discussed this with the Planning Commission, this is completely a commercial use. This is a commercial use that should not be on a residential use. We have had couple cases of businesses or entities that we have allowed on their conditional use permit that have caused multiple complaints from the neighbors surrounding those properties. They have to do with noise, they have to do with light, they have to do with traffic, they have to do with parking on the streets, on the residential zones. So it's something very important to keep in mind is that we're not just taking the uses away from the city. That's not the case. So these zones, as we can see right here, this is a green zone, this is a residential, rural residential, but there's a chance for people to eventually apply an overlay zone that is commercial in nature. If we take a look at this red square right here with some black hashing, that is the area where the old Manila church used to be.
Stonegate.
Yeah, Stonegate. Stonegate and the Peak. That's the school and soccer field on the side. If we take a look, that is actually in the middle of residential zone, but that was part of a legislative decision. The city council made a legislative decision and decided that the area was good enough to be a commercial zone, and then it got rezoned. And now that use is permitted in that zone. So people still, if they want to pursue that use, instead of making an administrative decision, it would be a legislative decision in order to apply that overlay and rezone the property. However, that gives the neighbors the chance to come and explain and decide why they would like to have it or why they wouldn't like to have it. But to have it as a conditional use, it's a complicated path for staff. It's a complicated path for the Planning Commission, for the people who live around it, who have to it's really hard for a Planning Commission to deny a conditional use. Most of them need to be approved based on certain conditions, and then there's some pull and push, and it's a complicated situation. Again, the city is not just removing all these uses from from the entire city, but what we're proposing is their commercial uses, keep it in a commercial zone, or if they want to go in a residential area, make sure they go through a legislative decision, kind of like a rezone type of thing. So that's what the proposal is. Again, we do have some reception centers, and I'm just talking about this because I'm very familiar with this type of use, but we have some reception centers already in those zones, and they have been complicated to manage, okay? We have used the police department, and we have to use a lot of resources for complaints and trying to track and make sure that everyone is doing their part of their job. And I'm talking about the owners of this. They try, but still, it produces nuisances because that's the nature of a commercial use in the middle of a residential use. Okay, so that's what I have, Mayor and Council.
Okay, Council, any questions?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
Daniel, is there any current projects that are going to be grandfathered in, or is there any?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there's 3-4 projects that they already got the approval from the Planning Commission, and they will be legal non-conforming. They will be legal, but they will be non-conforming or grandfathering.
So it's just everything from now on going forward.
Correct.
Any other questions? Thank you, Daniel.
My pleasure.
And we will now, if there's no other questions from the council, go to open up our public hearing for ordinance 2021-11 and ask anyone to come forward and address the council at this public hearing. I see no one coming forward, so we'll now close our public hearing and bring it back up to the council for any further discussion or a motion. Do I questions? And I ask for a motion.
Make a motion to consider for adoption ordinance 2021-11 to amend City Code Section 10-9A-2 permitted conditional and accessory uses to remove listed use number 5440, candy, nut, and confectionery, use number 6299, other personal services, NEC, including wedding chapels, reception centers, babysitting bureaus, and reducing salons. Use number 7500, resorts and group camps. Use number 7400, recreation activities, and use number 1516, bed and breakfast inn for the list of conditional uses in the RR, rural residential zone.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilmember Bullock,
Second.
and we have a second from Councilmember Jensen. And this will be a roll call vote again, and we'll start out with Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock,
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone,
Yes.
and Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Mayor, I have a question. Well,
Motion carries.
Yeah, I mean,
Go
I think
ahead.
it's actually Councilmember Lamone wants to know what a reducing salon is. What does that mean?
It's a weight loss center, isn't it?
I think it is an archaic, anachronistic term for a weight loss center.
Oh, okay.
Or day spa.
Or a medical
Medical
spa,
spa.
where they're melting it or freezing it,
Melting
Well,
it.
I think a medical spa is actually,
permitted.
it's a different, I mean, if it was gonna be
Okay.
a medical spa, we would call it a medical spa, right? This is like I said, like an anachronistic
Antiquated.
term.
Okay.
All right.
So this is a term that
Same
people,
thing with babysitting bureau, we talked about that in directors, what is a babysitting bureau?
so are these things that we should be changing in the code?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that there are terms that are in the general land use designation that was drafted forever ago, and it's not just our code. We take our land use codes and the uses from a state adopted one, or was it the American Association of Planners?
Like from the 1800s?
Bureaus, just like the city council.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
so it's just old
Clarifying the
terminology
babysitting
that just needs to be updated, and
Yeah, I think that seems good to do that.
but we're taking it out, so
Yeah,
then it won't be there anymore.
but what about the babysitting, yeah, okay, good. We find that, Tina, we're just gonna strike that out. So a reducing salon is like a weight loss clinic?
Yeah,
I'm offended.
You know what I think of? You know those old machines where you stood on them and it vibrated? I think that's what I think of as a reducing salon.
Wow.
I had one when we were a kid, we put the
That
dog
dates
on
you.
there.
That
We all
dates
had
you.
one when we were kids. Okay,
Oh, if I could
not
tell you the
these.
stories.
Actually, I think I broke my back as a little child.
Okay, we finished,
Moving on.
council, can we move on?
Yes, moving on.
Okay, okay, we'll now move to 9F. Public hearing to consider for adoption ordinance 2021-12 to amend City Code Section 10-9A-10, building height, to refine the requirements and limitations for building height in the RR Rural Residential Zone. Pleasant Grove City applicant and the director, you can present this one again. Thank you.
Mayor, council, when someone wants to build a structure, and we're not talking about the land use part, but the actual building permit part, an applicant, a resident or an applicant shows up to the front counter and they give us some plans of the structure they want to build, whether it's a home or whether it's a farm, a barn, whatever they're going to build, we review that. We have in our code regulations for structures. One regulation that we have for main dwellings or main structures in the rural residential zone is the height of a building, okay? Height of a building is usually associated with the loss of the view, the air, the sun. So there's so many things associated with the height of a building or the consequences that a super tall building can have in neighboring properties. So usually most codes, and if not every single code, already has some limitations on the height of buildings in every zone. We have limitations in commercial zones, we have limitations on residential zones, and here in the rural residential zone, the limitation for the height of a building is 35 feet. It's a quite tall building. We're talking 3 three and a half stories pretty much above ground, because if a building has a basement or something like that, that doesn't count. If we take a look at the definition of building height, the general definition of building height, it says that it's the vertical distance measured from the average elevation of the finished lot grade at each face of the building to the highest point of the roof, provided that those structures set forth in section 10.15.9, which are architectural features of this title, shall be excluded from said measurements, like flagpoles, chimneys, things that are not used for human occupancy. So those, we don't count those. I mean,
Okay.
if there's a home that has is 35 feet and the chimney sticks out, that's okay, right? That's okay. That doesn't count part of the elevation. Now, that bunch of words right there, Pleasant Grove City Planner is really good at interpreting that, and land use staff can interpret that very well. What we do is we see the elevation. So most of the homes that we can imagine only have four facades, four faces. But most of, a lot of the actual buildings that are built in areas where there's some changes in grade, they definitely have more than four. Some they have 6. I've seen some homes that have 8. And then you have a garage facing one way and like in a diagonal part, and then you have the swimming pool house attached to the house in another. So there's multiple ways the people do buildings nowadays. They stay away usually from the square. So what our definition says is that if we think about a piece of land that is in a slant or is graded, what the definition says is when you have a building on top of that, okay, the way to do it is we're gonna find, of course, one side is higher, the other side is lower. I hope is the camera looking at me when I'm doing this? Mm-hmm. Okay, so hopefully the public can get it too. So we have one high point, one low point, and we have multiple faces of a building. So what do is we get the outsides of the building, find the middle point, and measure from the middle point high up, okay? Or another way to do it, we go to the highest point of the terrain, the lowest point of the terrain, draw a line, that's the average, and then we measure from there to the tallest part of the building. By doing that, if we have a building that is, for example, let's think about a building that has 6 facades. 4 of them may be taller than 35, but of course 2 are gonna be shorter. So more than just one facade can be taller, like as it says right here, multiple sides can be taller than 35, but some of them need to be shorter, the ones that are on the high part of the land. So there's a type of plans, topographical plans, that when we have questions, we ask the developer or the builder, like, show us some topographical plans of the structures, and it's very common. They give us some of that. When I used to work for Sally County, and I was in charge of the canyons, those were always required. Always required. Show us those plans. Here, it's only if we have questions. If we think of a building that is way too high, and but then we see that there's some grading differences, then we require them. We don't require them all the time. Now, that definition fits perfectly. And actually, our definition is pretty, what's the word that I wanna use? It's pretty benevolent. Is that a word in English? Benevolent?
Yes.
It means it's a good, it allows the applicant or the builder to measure the building from the finished lot grade. So we don't go from natural lot grade as we do in other jurisdictions. Other jurisdictions, they say, hey, this is it, and if you put any dirt on top of it, we don't care. Just show us what the original is, and we're gonna measure from there. Here we go from the finished lot grade. Again, it's very benevolent for the applicant. They usually change the grade, and that helps them a lot. Now, the problem is that we already understand that, and that's how we apply. But when we go to our city code, to our actual city code, when we talk about the RR zone, our definition says something like, not a definition, sorry. When we talk about building height in the RR zone, it says no lot or parcel of land in the RR zone shall have a main building or structure which exceeds a height of 2.5 stories with a maximum of 35 feet. And again, it says right here, chimneys, flagpoles, or similar structures not used for human occupancy are excluded in determining height. The next part is going to be the cause of heartburn for me. It says right here, notwithstanding these provisions, main buildings which exceed the maximum height of 35 feet may be approved by the issuance of a conditional use permit. Upon findings of no significant loss of light, air, views, or of surrounding properties, or where by reason of topography, one side of the dwelling may exceed 35 feet. So in other words, our definition already covers that one side of the building by reason of topography being taller or higher. So our definition doesn't require us to come to get a conditional use. But when we go to this part, it requires and puts a lot of weight on my planning commission, because also the other part that says, upon findings of not significant loss of light, air, and views of surrounding properties. That's very difficult to prove, very difficult to measure.
Subjective.
It's very subjective, and as long as my planning commission stays away from subjective, the better for them. So by eliminating this, we just go back to our definition, which again is pretty benevolent definition. In that definition, we don't only allow one side of a building, but multiple sides, as long as the average is 35 feet. And 35 feet is a good height for a building. It's pretty common. Now, when I present this to the planning commission, they unanimously gave me a standing ovation. They didn't give a stand. But they were really happy about this, to be able to eliminate this. One thing that also I didn't put in there, and I apologize for that, they would like to eliminate this part that talks about 2.5 stories and just leave it as 35 feet.
Yeah.
Now, when an applicant comes and presents their plans, it's gonna be a staff right there in the front counter just measuring, making sure it's 35 feet, and boom, we go. We just look for the average of the building. Again, we measure the average of the building, and in that situation, multiple sides can be taller, but at the same time, multiples will be shorter. Finding that, again, that average on a finishing lot grade. Eliminating this avoids confusion, and again, we want to stay away from conditional uses, especially the ones that are pretty subjective to measure. It's a complicated situation. And again, I don't see a need to go to a conditional use for one side of the building being taller than 35, when our definition already tells us that we can do it without a conditional use. So that's what I have, Mayor and Council.
Any questions?
Yeah, did you want us to take out the 2.5 stories?
Please, that was the recommendation of the Planning Commission.
Yeah,
And
I'm fine
staff
with just the
agrees with
35
that.
feet then.
Correct.
I don't think that's in the motion, is it?
Well, I think that when we make the
That's in the
motion,
code.
we can say
The motion, make the amendment if you choose.
to amend.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Good.
that was the recommendation of the Planning Commission, and staff thinks it's a good idea.
It's not in the ordinance.
Actually, in the text of the ordinance that's in your packet, he has the 2.5 stories already.
Correct.
Removed.
Oh,
Correct.
sorry. You know, I was showing you what was in the staff report, and
Yeah.
then in the actual ordinance,
The ordinance is fine.
we did it like that, because I remembered that the Planning Commission had the recommendation, so,
Okay.
sorry, it's already there. It's already scratched out.
Okay,
I was looking at a different part of the, of the ordinance. So,
scratched out.
okay, it's already scratched out. Sorry about that. Thank you, Tina.
Anything else for Daniel? Not? Thank you, Director.
My pleasure, Mayor.
Okay, with that, if there's no other questions from the council, I ask for a motion.
Wait,
on-
is this a public hearing?
Oh, excuse me, yes. Well, it is public hearing. So we'll now open our public hearing and ask for anyone to come forward and address the council for this hearing. I see no one coming forward, so we'll now close our public hearing
Laurel, I'm so disappointed.
and bring it back up here to the council for any further discussion or a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2021-12 as read by you earlier.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Anderson. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Councilmember Williams, and this will be a roll call vote again, and we'll go the other direction with Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone,
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries. That one, we'll now move on to our last public hearing this evening, And 9G, a public hearing to consider for adoption ordinance 2021-13, enacting Chapter 19 of the Business License Code of the Pleasant Grove City Municipal Code, providing for massage establishments, establishing license requirements, and providing an effective date.
Mayor and
General
Council. Mayor and Council, the ordinance before you is enacting a whole new chapter in our business license code, Title III, Chapter 19. Currently, we do not regulate massage establishments with regard to business licenses. We don't have any specific requirements for their licensure. We have found in the recent past that some people have taken advantage of that and have established massage establishments in the city and engaged in illegal activities. So the purpose of this ordinance is to tighten up the requirements and to hopefully dissuade or discourage people from setting up massage establishments that don't comply with health regulations and also with proper business practices. And what we found is typically these institutions use out-of-state people who come in who aren't licensed in the state of Utah and often have criminal histories in other states where they've come from. So the new requirements will require that the owner of the establishment provide Utah ID, and that anybody who is working in the establishment, including the owner, have a background check, not only in Utah, but any state that they've lived in within the last 5 years. And that they also have to provide a Utah State massage therapist or apprentice license. A lot of them, the ones that we've discovered, will have licenses, but they'll be out of a different state and they won't be licensed in Utah. So we want to make sure that anyone who's practicing that type of business is correctly licensed and correctly authorized by the state of Utah. There's one correction that I need to make note of in the ordinance that's in your packet. Originally, part of the sanitation inspection was going to require a Utah County Health Department sign-off. We have since learned from the county that they do not physically inspect massage establishments. They do tattoo parlors and piercings, but not massage establishments. So I've prepared an alternate version with the references to the Utah County Health Department removed, but that version did not make it into your packet, so just take note of that. Do you have any questions?
Well done.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
If no other questions by the council, we will now open our public hearing for ordinance 2021-13 and ask anyone to come forward and address the council at this time. We see when no one is approaching or asking to be heard, we'll now close our public hearing and bring it back up to the council for further discussion or a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 2021-13, enacting Chapter 19 of the Business License Code of the Pleasant Grove City Municipal Code, providing for massage establishments, establishing licensing requirements, and providing for an effective date citywide.
We have a motion by Councilmember
Second.
Williams. Do I have a second by Councilmember Bullock? This will be a roll call vote again, and we'll start out with Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock.
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone.
Yes.
And Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. Passes unanimously. That concludes our long list of public hearings this evening. And we'll now,
Maybe, Mayor, can I
Yes,
just ask
go
you a
ahead.
question? So what is the effective date on that?
As soon as it's passed and posted.
Okay,
As
so
soon as it's posted. So we have a posting requirement after you approve it. As soon as it's posted according to law, it's effective. So there's not like a
Okay.
delay.
Oh, perfect.
It's
Okay.
maybe a day or two.
sounds good, thank you.
okay, we'll now move on to our action items ready for vote this evening and move to 10A. Consider for adoption resolution 2021-016, adopting the Pleasant Grove City tentative budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2021 and ending June 30, 2022, which includes the comprehensive fee schedule and providing for an effective date. You need to, I think.
Yeah,
we've
we
had-
won't review all the numbers that we went over in the work session unless there's any questions.
Yeah, was there any questions for Denise
No.
or Scott on this anymore? Then I asked for a motion on Resolution 2021-016.
I'd move to adopt Resolution 2021-16, adopting the Pleasant Grove City tentative budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2021 and ending June 30, 2022, which includes a comprehensive fee schedule and providing an effective date.
I have a motion by Councilmember Bullock. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Anderson. And this will be a roll call vote. And we'll start out with Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock,
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll now move on to 10B.
Done now.
Consider for adoption Resolutions 2021-017, authorizing the mayor to declare a Surface Pro 4 and 11 Ford Explorer consoles and 8 light bars and 1 canine cage and 1 Cummins commercial generator, 1 20-gallon fuel tank for the generator as surplus, and direct that the disposal be according to the city's policy of disposing of surplus property and providing for an effective date.
This is your chance to
Chief.
get a light bar.
Just can't turn it on.
Who cares?
Amazon, Diana.
Yeah, we can hook you up with it.
That's true.
Mayor and council, we've switched our fleet over to F-150s completely, so we have no more Ford Explorers, so we're trying to clear out one of our Sally Ports. Marty has a Surface Pro that's with Public Works that he's added onto this. And then we have 8 2004 Ford Explorer consoles. We have to remove the consoles when we get the Explorers to put the active console in with the light bars and all the controls and stuff like that. And so when we sell the Explorers to other cities to use, they just keep the police consoles in them. So when we give them back, Ford sells them either to private parties or other cities. And if we sell them to private parties, they take the private console back. And this time that just didn't happen. 8-wheel and light bars that we're planning on giving back to the place that sets our vehicles up, so that'll give us some credit next year when we set up our vehicles. 1 canine cage that won't do us any good because we have an F-150 for our canine now. 3 2018 Ford Explorer consoles. We have 1 Cummins commercial diesel generator that's brand new in the crate, and then a fuel tank for that generator, so we're looking to put those on surplus. Give us some room. The generator and the tank were bought off a grant by the previous chief police for a trailer that we were gonna get for emergency management that we never did. And it takes up about half of our Sally Port, so we're looking to get rid of that so we can put that money back in a grant for something else, so.
Wow.
Okay, any questions for the chief?
It's good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That I asked for if there's no further discussion between the council, I ask for a motion on resolution number 2021-017.
Mayor, I make a motion for adoption of Resolution 2021-17 as read by the mayor.
I have a motion by Councilmember Jensen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Anderson. And it's roll call again. We'll go the other direction with Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone.
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen.
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. And it passes unanimously. Thank you. That now move on to action item number 10C.
Mayor, if I might interrupt just one second and
You
save
bet.
you some time. The next item has a very lengthy, short title, and you do not need to read every single subsection of the ordinance. So
Well, I've
if you-
been working on it all afternoon.
Well, and
I
then what do we
knew-
say when we just say, and just as read by him?
So moved.
Yeah.
So moved by you.
Well, I mean, you can read the first part that talks about the noticing requirements, but you don't need to read every single subsection.
Basically, the
Thank you,
first
because-
sentence, right?
I was reviewing that, and I says, wow, this is the challenge here, so thank you. Okay. We'll move to 10C, to consider for adoption Resolution 2021-14, amending the Pleasant Grove Municipal Code to comply with recent changes in public notice requirements of the Utah County Code Section 1,
State code.
and that does it.
Thank you.
So you're going to read all these for us?
I will just highlight them for you.
Okay, all right.
So Mayor and Council, in the 2021 legislative session, the Utah State Legislature passed Senate Bill 201, which made changes to the noticing requirements statewide for municipalities with regard to a variety of public notices that we are required to give. In particular, they removed the requirement that we publish all of our notices in a newspaper of general circulation. So all of those subsections with regard to review of salaries of public hearing, review of salaries of public officers, notice of audit availability, disposal of parcels of real property, appeals and public hearing notice requirements, historic landmark register, cemetery regulations, and hearings and notice of procedure to consider general plan modifications and land use ordinances to vacate or alter or amend a street. All of those had the requirement to post it in or publish it in a newspaper of general circulation removed, and added in the requirement to publish it on the Utah Public Notice website. We made a couple of other changes on our own to come into conformance with some new legislation, particularly with regard to section, let me get there. Section 10. Section 10.2-1, hearings, notice, and procedure. With regard to land use decisions or land use ordinances, in subsection 3, subsection 3.4, we added some additional things to come into compliance with the state code with regard to noticing requirements. We had basically the same thing, but they reworded it and added a few more requirements, and so we're just coming into compliance with state code. It's basically a housekeeping item. And then the same with the other section with regard to vacating a public street. We actually had that we had stricter requirements for noticing than the state required, and they changed those about 2 years ago, and so we've known that we needed to bring our ordinance in compliance. We can't ever get in trouble for providing more notice than required, only less. So we were comfortable still providing the additional notice, but since we're making changes in this section anyway, we thought it was a good time to change. Instead of publishing the notice for 3 or 4 weeks in a newspaper, now we just have to give 10 days notice, and so it's less burdensome on us to do
Wow.
that. And I think those are the only substantive changes. Any questions?
Well, I wonder, maybe one of our local papers won't be able to survive after not being able to have all the notices we put in it,
It
so.
will definitely be a hit to their budget, I think.
So, thank you. So with that, we ask to consider for adoption ordinance 2021-14, amending the Pleasant Grove City Code. Well, we already said that, so I ask for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion for adoption of ordinance 2021-14, amending the Pleasant Grove Municipal Code to comply with recent changes in public notice requirements of the state of Utah Code.
We have a motion by Councilmember Jensen. Do I have a second?
Yeah.
We have
Yes.
a second by Councilmember Anderson. And we'll start out with Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock,
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Thank you, passes unanimously. And that concludes our action items for this evening. And we'll now move to review and discuss the May 18th, 2021 City Council meeting. Our City Administrator.
Yeah, for our work session, we are hoping to have UDOT here to give us their latest on the plans out on Pleasant Grove Boulevard at the interchange. They emailed us the other day wanting to come. They were looking to come May 25th, which is not a meeting night for us. So we asked them if they can make May 18th. They haven't confirmed that yet. So we're hopeful that's the case. If not, then it will likely be our first meeting in June. We also have the budget amendment that Denise was talking about to allocate the funds in our capital so that we can move that out of the general fund and stay good with the audit to make sure we're under our fund balance requirement. And there will be also a couple other items there for council approval for funding. And then we have a public hearing to talk about vacating a road or right-of-way, a section of road, which is owned by the city, which is not needed on 900 West and 700 South. This is a little bit of a housekeeping item as we get into things like this. We own certain strips of property which don't make sense for us to own. So I don't know if Marty, if you want to give any other further clarification on that. Okay. And then we are working on a sewer easement for the with Macy's with that boring that's going on under the road. So we're hopeful to have that ready. If it's not, we'll push that back. But our intent is to have that for May 18th. So that's all we have on the agenda so far.
I see they got the bore made, Marty, so.
Yeah, the board, the casing's all the way under State Street right now, so
Wow.
That's
waiting for an easement, and they'll start on the north side of the road this week, so.
okay. Well, and we'll now go to item number 13, Mayor and Council businesses, and I'll start down here with Sid on this end. Sid, do you have anything you need to bring to the council this evening? Eric?
I think Scott put in his email on the 20th of May at 10:30, Ace Recycling's having their big, I don't know, grand opening, ribbon cutting.
It's their 1-year anniversary,
Yeah.
but they're calling it a ribbon cutting. And they actually have invited the elected officials to come at 10 a.m. so that you could have a tour of the facility. And then at 10:30 from 11:30 is their ribbon cutting / open house. And then they're doing a barbecue lunch
Really
afterwards.
nice, yeah, so,
What day?
the 20th.
Of May, not September?
Nope.
Okay.
They've postponed this many times, so they're excited. And then,
Your invite?
it's a little out there, but you've seen that we're working with, the Chamber is working with Strawberry Days Association, PG Cares, Pleasant Grove City, and Honorary Colonels, and we're closing down Main Street. I think we're working with Dion on that, and we're bringing in Ryan Shoup to be the concert. That's June 12th, and it's gonna be food trucks, dancing. I didn't put karaoke. If someone wants to get up and do that, they can. Concert and strawberries and cream. So, anyway.
And strawberries.
And, yeah, but for sale. This is not the concert where citizens get it for free. That's the coming Tuesday. So this one, strawberries and cream will be available to purchase.
Mayor, actually, I did have one thing.
Yes.
Real quick. So we have the Tabitha's Way bins around the city, and a couple of them are in locations that are high traffic locations, and they overflow and it looks trashy. They're also taking up parking spots. And so I was talking to Dion about this, that if we can move a couple of those, because they're at schools or at businesses, I mean, there's quite a few around the city.
Right.
If we could move that to a central location similar to the Jacobs Center, where it's not taking up parking and it's not, when it gets overflowed, I know there's one up at the rec center, it overflows and it looks junky.
Same with the Manila Pond one.
Manila Pond and Discovery Park are the three that I'm
Yeah,
thinking of.
yeah.
And I'm just wondering if it would be more appropriate to move those, I'm not saying get rid of them, but just move them to a better location that isn't interrupting the parking and also isn't such a high traffic location to where it looks junky when they're overflowing. We already have a couple bins down there, it would just put a couple more by the glass
At the
recycling
Jacob
and
Center.
in front of the Jacobson Center.
Is there a problem as to why they're not emptying them? I mean,
Dion, I'll
Volunteers, I think.
But I just wanted to, because I spoke to Dion, and we thought it'd be best to bring it in front of the council to see if that's something that, in case you have neighbors that know about these locations, these three main ones are the ones I'm just talking about.
I spoke with their coordinator, and they know that this is a problem. They've increased their staff by 5 people. In the last couple months, they're working on an app that should go live within the next month that will allow people, if they notice stuff outside outside the bins, that they can ping them and they'll get right on it. But yeah, it is an issue that has been for quite a while, and like Sid said, it does take up some prime parking lots, especially at the rec center and Discovery Park. It's busy at Discovery right now, so.
It is.
We had a meeting with Tabitha Scott and I on possibility of them relocating to our city, and they addressed that at the time. And what's really hit them hard is that because of the DI's been shut down, everybody, okay, I'll just go dump it. And they don't put it in the bin, they just go dump it on the thing there. So they're concerned about it, and they're working, they don't want to lose out on the donations, but I think, like I say, we need some attention to it, so.
Yeah, they're dumping things that really Tabitha Ways doesn't accept, and so she did explain to me that their dump bill is quite high, because they're taking TVs and couches and things like that people aren't really supposed to be dumping off there, so, because of DI being shut down, so.
Well, and just so we understand, it's their bins, but they're there by our invitation. I mean, they came and asked permission to put them on our property. So if we choose, we can tell them that we want, I don't know if we're the ones that would want to move them because they're their bins. I don't want to wreck one of them. But in essence, that's our call. If we want to have them moved, we can
I kind of like
relocate
the
them.
more
we
central
can relocate
location.
them.
Maybe we ought to.
I'm just talking about the three specifically, Manila Pond, Discovery Park, and the rec center, where it's always busy, there's parking, and they look trashy if they get overflowed. I don't want to get rid of them, I just want to move them to a different location.
Where else are they other than those three locations?
They're at local schools, some local businesses, and then there's like one up at Hill Park.
The
But
senior
those,
center has
the senior
one
center,
or two.
so I mean, there's a lot around town. Grovecrest, South Valley View has one.
In my opinion, because of where they're at, I don't know if they're ever going to be able to get on top of this idea of being able to dump it as soon as it starts overflowing. I think they're completely overwhelmed right now, and even 5 new people, I'm not super confident that that's not going to continue to be a problem. To consolidate it at the senior center with an understanding that that might overflow, but I mean, we do have the glass recycle out there now. That would probably be better for us than overflowing into the parking lots of the different places.
The other one we talked about was PG Pool. There's a bin that's at Veterans Park and PG Pool that is really visible and overflows as well, and that also takes up parking.
I'm sure they would move them, at their cost, I don't think like Scott says, I don't think we need to move them, but I think they would move them. I can make that call and talk with her and
It's
see
whatever
if they're
everyone wants to
acceptable,
do.
if that's what you guys decide. So we'll do the 4. The pool, the rec, Discovery, and Manila Creek.
Those are the ones I've seen
Oh,
that have.
yeah.
Same,
Okay,
Yeah.
but we could definitely use the parking, so.
okay.
Sounds
Okay.
like a good idea. Nothing, Todd? Diana?
Just, well done, chamber on, ribbon cuttings, and it's just fun to see the growth happening, and it's just a blessing to the city, so, and I know you've done a lot of work to make that happen, so, thanks, Eric.
Councilmember Williams?
Sorry. Thank you, Mayor.
Fine, if we-
Did we skip you?
Yes.
No,
I'm sorry.
I said no, and then I realized that I probably should say something. So about 4 years ago, I stood in somewhere this location in the old City Hall, Town Hall, or City Council room, and announced that I would run for a term of City Council. And, you know, I didn't really think I understood at that point what the next 4 years would be like. And I'm going to say that they've all been positive. I've loved working with the council. I've loved working with the staff. I think we've accomplished some great things in our city over the last 4 years. It hasn't been without discussion or disagreements, but it's always been positive for the city, and I've been grateful for the opportunity to have served for 4 years. I'm now going to, after much discussion with my wife and business partners, I'm going to run for another 4 years. So I'm going to announce that I'm going to put in my candidacy for another 4 years. I think we've got a lot of work to do still. There's a lot of good things that are happening in our city, and there's a lot of things that we still need to finish out. So I wanted to officially kick that off tonight and let everybody know that that's where I'd like to go, and we'll let the future go.
I can remember when you said, I'm just doing this for 4 years.
Everybody says that.
Yeah. Well, and maybe this is a good time to honor him, because Jeremy Hall asked me to run. And for those that don't know Jeremy, he was an absolutely fantastic advocate of the city and a member of the honorary colonels. And he asked me to run, and the deal was that I would run for 4 years, and then he would run. Unfortunately, he did pass away from cancer, and so I'm kind of dedicating these 4 years to Jeremy's term, and this is I'm going to sit in for Jeremy, and do that. So, and I've taken his place on the honorary colonels as well, because I feel like he would have wanted that representation. So thanks, Mayor.
Thank you.
On that note,
You're not going to let him outdo you, are you?
I am not going to let him outdo me.
So what a fun night to announce that. Jeremy was an amazing man, and we actually had many, many discussions. In fact, I remember the night when he said, I have a neighbor I'm going to ask. So, and I've enjoyed my time here on council and also planning commission. And I have enjoyed sitting here at this seat with these wonderful people who I have grown to love and respect. And I can't imagine not running right now. There's a couple of projects that are coming that make me cry and shout for joy. So I would like to see those completed. So I am also going to throw my hat in the ring.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah. Anyway.
And that one project I think you've been waiting for years for is the Public Works.
Yes. It's actually on the top of my book. I have a little book, and I have little boxes of things as I check through to say, these are the things that I want to get done. Hey, Brent.
Yeah, what do you got?
This is anticlimactic. I'm not running, so, but I don't have anything else.
Okay. Well, I have nothing for us this evening other than thanking you all for being here this evening, but we still have more to do this evening, so we will now ask for if there's any other calendar things we need to calendar right now. Is there anything else we need to bring up? So we got a solid schedule on Strawberry Days then, is that out yet?
I think it's on the website. Is that correct, Sid?
So, okay, so we'll mark that. So I would ask for a motion to adjourn from our council meeting and from our city council meeting. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, make a motion that we adjourn from the city council meeting. Do I also make a motion that we?
I think that's
Nope.
Separate.
Ask for a
I
motion. We
still
gotta
have so
adjourn.
many
We gotta
things to
adjourn
learn.
first.
I make a motion that we adjourn as the Pleasant Grove City Council.
We're going to do this.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll now move to ask for a motion to reconvene as the Pleasant Grove City Redevelopment Agency. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to convene as the Pleasant Grove City Redevelopment Agency.
We have a motion by Councilmember Williams. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Anderson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And motion carries, and we're now reconvened as the Pleasant Grove Redevelopment Agency. And Director Roy.
Scott touched on this a little bit. There's just a one-page document. I think it's RDA 2022 in the Dropbox. But we're required to adopt the redevelopment agency budget separately, so something that Scott discussed. We do have some fund balance that we're working through with Randy Santz. And then the only thing that you would see in that budget that looks a little odd is we have a bond that's coming due in December of this year. And so I have to show that, but I'm just showing as a developer contribution and then just paying the expenditure. So there's big dollars amount there. So just showing that just a wash, but just showing that correctly for the budget.
So if I can just follow up on that comment real quick, this bond should be retired in December,
December 1st.
which will be right now today, $12.9 million off the books for the city. Beautiful. So it's a bond we carry. It's a bond we have not made payments on, with the exception of maybe one very early on. But that will be a nice day for us when we can get that retired and get that off the books. So that will be a good day.
Yeah, because it does reflect in our debt schedules. Even though we're not servicing the debt, it is reflected in how much debt we have on the books. So it'll be a good item to have.
Do any members have any questions for Director Roy? No. Thank you. And as chairman of the Pleasant Grove City Redevelopment Agency, I ask for a motion.
Chairman, I make a motion for adoption of Resolution 2021-01 RDA, adopting the Redevelopment Agency RDA tentative budget for FY 2021 and 2022.
Okay, do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Williams. And this will be a roll call vote, and we'll start out with the chair, Guy Fugel, and I go yay, and I will ask for
Chairperson,
Board Member Anderson,
board member. Yes.
Board Member Bullock,
Yes.
Board Member Jensen,
Yay.
Board Member Lamone,
Yes.
and Board Member Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. This is unanimously. That concludes that. If no other things we have on the, so I ask for a motion to adjourn from our Pleasant Grove City
So move.
Redevelopment Agent. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned from our redevelopment, and do we need a motion to reconvene?
You just reconvene it, Mayor.
Okay, we reconvene to our city council, and this evening we have a closed meeting, our next item on, and so the rest of you get to go home, but the council does not. And we have a closed meeting to discuss the character, professional competence, or the physical or mental health of an individual. Is our closed session this evening, and I need a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilmember Williams. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilmember Jensen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?